Hello and welcome back to another episode of Eccentric History. Today we will be diving into a dark and sensitive chapter in history, the story of the comfort women of the Japanese military during World War II. This topic is incredibly sensitive and we will be approaching it with the utmost empathy and respect. Our aim is to shed light on the harrowing experiences these women faced and to honour their courage and resilience. But before we start, please make sure to like and subscribe to our channel so that we keep bringing you interesting content. So let's begin. During World War II, the Imperial Japanese Army employed a system of forced prostitution, which enslaved thousands of women from across Asia. These women were euphemistically called comfort women. This term was a cruel misnomer, as there was nothing comforting about their plight. The origins of the comfort woman system. To understand how the comfort woman system came to be, we need to go back to the early 1930s, when Japan was aggressively expanding its territories in Asia. As the Japanese military conquered more territories, they sought to provide their soldiers with a means of alleviating their loneliness and reducing instances of violence against local women. In 1932, the Japanese military established its first comfort station in Shanghai, China. This was the beginning of an extensive network of brothels that would later be used to exploit thousands of innocent women. Recruitment and abduction of comfort women. The recruitment and abduction of comfort women was a systematic and brutal process, carried out by both Japanese military personnel and local intermediaries. Many comfort women were lured into the system through deceptive recruitment tactics. Desperate for work and opportunities to support their families, these women were vulnerable to false promises of well-paying jobs, education, or even marriage proposals. Recruiters, often working in cooperation with Japanese military officials, would approach families in impoverished rural areas of war-torn regions, offering these false opportunities. Once the women agreed, they would be taken under the pretext of starting their new lives. However, they would soon find themselves trapped in a nightmarish existence as comfort women. In many cases, the recruitment process was even more sinister, involving outright abduction. Japanese soldiers and local collaborators would forcibly take women from their homes, tearing them away from their families and communities. Sometimes soldiers would conduct raids on villages, rounding up women and girls as young as 12 years old. In other cases, women were taken from the streets or public places, never to be seen by their loved ones again. The women who resisted were often met with violence or threats against their families. The Japanese military targeted women from various countries and backgrounds, but focused particularly on vulnerable populations. Many comfort women came from Korea, a Japanese colony at the time, where they were seen as second-class citizens and easily exploitable. Other victims were taken from countries under Japanese occupation, such as China, the Philippines, Indonesia, and Taiwan. These women, already suffering from the hardships of war, were targeted by the Japanese military because they were less likely to have the means or resources to resist escape. It is important to note that the recruitment and abduction of comfort women could not have occurred without the involvement of local collaborators. These individuals, motivated by financial gain or political allegiance to Japan, played a crucial role in identifying, deceiving, and abducting women for the comfort women system. These collaborators included local officials, village leaders, and even family members who turned a blind eye or actively participated in the forced recruitment of women. Their complicity in this brutal system highlights the complexity of the issue and the need for a comprehensive approach to addressing the historical injustices faced by comfort women. The living conditions and treatment of comfort women were beyond appalling. Forced into a life of constant degradation and abuse, these women suffered in ways that are difficult to comprehend. The so-called comfort stations were makeshift brothels, often set up in schools, factories, or other commandeered buildings. The conditions in these stations were incredibly overcrowded and unsanitary, with numerous women sharing small cramped spaces. Basic necessities such as food, clean water, and adequate bedding were in short supply, and the women were often subjected to malnutrition and poor hygiene. Access to medical care was limited or non-existent, with women suffering from illnesses, injuries, and infections without any proper treatment. The primary purpose of the comfort women system was to provide sexual services to Japanese soldiers. These women were forced to service multiple soldiers each day, with some accounts suggesting up to 30 or 40 men per day. They were given no say in the matter and were often subjected to unimaginable acts of violence and degradation. Many of the women were forced to work long hours with little or no rest, resulting in physical and mental exhaustion. They were denied any form of autonomy or control over their own bodies, as they were treated as mere objects for the soldiers' pleasure. The comfort women frequently faced violence and torture at the hands of their captors. Beatings, whippings, and other forms of physical abuse were commonplace, as the women were punished for any perceived disobedience or failure to satisfy the soldiers. In some cases, the women were subjected to even more extreme forms of torture, including mutilation, burning, and waterboarding. This violence was not only a means of punishment, but also a method of control designed to break the women's spirits and force them into submission. In addition to the physical suffering, comfort women endured immense emotional trauma. They were stripped of their dignity, identity, and sense of worth, as they were treated as disposable commodities by their captors. Many women experienced feelings of shame, guilt, and self-blame, believing that they had somehow brought their suffering upon themselves. This emotional trauma often persisted long after the war, as many survivors continued to struggle with the psychological effects of their experiences. The combination of physical abuse, sexual violence, and unsanitary living conditions led to high rates of illness, injury, and death among the comfort women. STIs were rampant, and many women suffered from long-term complications as a result. Some women died from their injuries or illnesses, while others were driven to suicide as a means of escaping their unbearable suffering. In some instances, women who were deemed no longer useful or too ill to continue were executed by their captors. The living conditions and treatment of comfort women were nothing short of inhumane. These women suffered unimaginable horrors at the hands of their captors, leaving them with deep physical and emotional scars that would last a lifetime. The aftermath and the fight for justice. As the war came to an end, many comfort women were abandoned or killed by the retreating Japanese military. Those who survived were often left destitute, with no means of returning home. Many were stigmatized and ostracized by their own communities, as they were seen as tainted or disgraced. In the decades that followed, the plight of the comfort women remained largely unacknowledged. However, in the early 1990s, a group of courageous women began to come forward and share their stories, demanding an apology and reparations from the Japanese government. The brave survivors faced considerable backlash both from the Japanese government and from their own communities. However, their unwavering determination inspired many others to join the fight for justice. International human rights organizations and governments around the world began to recognize the importance of addressing this dark chapter in history. Japanese government's response and controversy. The Japanese government's response to the comfort women issue has been a source of ongoing controversy and tension between Japan and the countries affected by this dark chapter in history. Let's examine the key aspects of the Japanese government's response and the controversies surrounding it. In 1993, the Japanese government issued the Kono Statement, named after the Chief Cabinet Secretary Yohei Kono. This statement acknowledged the involvement of the Japanese military in the establishment and management of comfort stations and the coercion of women into sexual servitude. However, it did not provide a full official apology or reparations to the survivors. While the Kono Statement was seen as a step towards acknowledging the comfort women issue, critics argue that it fell short of fully accepting responsibility and providing a genuine apology for the suffering inflicted on these women. In 2015, Japan and South Korea reached an agreement that was intended to finally and irreversibly resolve the comfort women issue. Japan offered an apology and pledged to contribute 1 billion yen, around $8.3 million to fund surviving victims. However, this agreement faced significant criticism from survivors, their advocates, and the general public, who argued that it was inadequate and reached without proper consultation with the victims themselves. Some survivors refused to accept the compensation, insisting that a more comprehensive and sincere apology was necessary. Over the years, there have been instances of Japanese politicians and nationalists attempting to downplay or even deny the existence of the comfort women system. This revisionist approach has caused significant tensions between Japan and its neighbors, particularly South Korea and China. These attempts to rewrite history are seen as an affront to the memory of the victims and the ongoing struggle for justice. They have led to protests and diplomatic disputes, further complicating the efforts to achieve a meaningful resolution to the issue. The comfort women issue remains politically sensitive in Japan, with domestic opposition to acknowledging and apologizing for the issue. Some politicians and citizens argue that Japan has already apologized and provided compensations, while others maintain that the issue has been exaggerated or distorted by Japan's neighbors. This domestic opposition has made it challenging for the Japanese government to engage in a comprehensive dialogue and reach a universally accepted resolution. It also contributes to the ongoing controversy and tensions surrounding the issue. Remembering and honouring the comfort women. Despite the political controversies surrounding the comfort women issue, it's crucial that we remember and honour the experiences of these women. Memorials and statues have been erected around the world to pay tribute to their resilience and courage. One of the most well-known memorials is the Statue of Peace, also known as the Comfort Women statue, which was installed in front of the Japanese embassy in Seoul, South Korea in 2011. This bronze statue depicts a young girl in traditional Korean dress sitting on a chair, while an empty chair beside her symbolizing that many women who did not survive. In recent years, similar statues have been installed in other countries, including the US, Canada and Germany. These memorials serve as a reminder of the need for continued dialogue, education and reconciliation in order to prevent history from repeating itself. The story of the comfort women is a harrowing reminder of the depths of human cruelty and the resilience of the human spirit. By remembering and honouring their experiences, we can work towards a more compassionate and just world. The courage of these women to share their stories and demand justice should serve as an inspiration to us all. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Eccentric History. We hope that this discussion has provided a deeper understanding of the comfort women of the Japanese military during World War II. As always, we encourage you to continue learning and engaging with these important historical events. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Hit that bell icon so you never miss a video. Until next time, take care.